Spiritual people will find it hard to attract love unless they shift the energy that I'm going to share with you in this video. Now, there are reasons people feel stuck. There are reasons people find that maybe they haven't found their soul tribe, they haven't found their soulmates, they feel like they keep attracting old patterns over and over again. And that's because there's certain energies in play that keep them in a metaphorical box. Now, first off, for this process, a thing that happens that may not sound so cool to hear, but it's the fundamental pattern that I see happen in so many people, and this also happened in me, is when I went through my spiritual awakening in 2012, what happened is I felt very alone. I felt like people didn't get me, people didn't understand me. I started reading books at first, and then I started doing mantras, and my energy very much changed. I went from one way of being to a completely new way of being, where friends and family were like, what's going on with Aaron? And then I was so excited about ascension and spirituality and the law of attraction and very common spiritual concepts that people may learn. So then I was sharing it with my friends, with my family, with everyone, thinking they're just gonna love it, lives are gonna change so much, and they're gonna be so accepting and open to it. To find out that a lot of them thought it was weird. Thought it was something out of they thought I was either on drugs or they just didn't understand it. And that was a big letdown for me, because then I felt very alone. And what would happen then is I went out into the world and I developed this belief. And this belief was that people just don't get me. This belief was there's not people out there that are similar to me. And there is this belief out there that I just don't fit in. I'm like a lone wolf. And now one of the first things that will block you from attracting love as a high vibrational person, and here's another shadow aspect to this too I'm going to share that maybe doesn't sound good to hear, but what ends up happening is there's a belief there. Our beliefs create our reality. If we believe we are the lone wolf, then attracting someone into our life would go against and negate the lone wolf identity. And remember, we will always do everything we can to remain consistent to the way that we define ourselves. So if we define ourselves as a lone wolf, how are we going to attract friends or even love? Because it's well, I'm a lone wolf. That's who I am. And the shadow side of this too is the thing that happened to me is I felt like people didn't get me, and there was a level of self-judgment and spiritual significance, I call this. That's when people don't get you. In order to justify it, you say, well, these people, they're just asleep. They're just unaware. They're asleep in the matrix. And when we have that mentality that people just sleep in the matrix and unaware, it's a judgment. And that will stop you and block you from attracting people into your life. So one thing that I had to do is I had to let go of the spiritual significance. And maybe even if you click on this video, you're like, well, yes, I'm a high vibrational person, but that also implies that there's a lot of low vibrational people around, because it's we're a hierarchy raising, seeing ourselves out on this pedestal. And one thing that I had to do is I had to let go of that spiritual significance. I had to let go of thinking I'm better than anybody, or justifying they're just asleep and I'm awake and they don't get me. I literally could not attract friends into my life or love into my life until I shifted that. And I had to start accepting other people, and I had to start also accepting myself. So realize if you're having trouble attracting love, it could be because there's a belief that people don't get you. There's a level of the lone wolf mentality that's keeping that in place. And when you shift that, that's one of a huge thing that will shift your love life. So the second thing for this, this is one I'm excited to talk about actually. I haven't really shared this on my channel before. So one thing that happens when people go through a spiritual awakening a lot of times is something called the anima and the animus. The anima and the animus is this idea from Carl Jung in psychology. And basically what it states is that when we go through a spiritual awakening and we evolve to, in spiral dynamics, what is called the green level of consciousness. I have whole videos on spiral dynamics. But what happens is if based on our energy, we revert to the other polarity. So for example, you'll see many men that may have very feminine energy that have been through a spiritual awakening, and you might find some women with masculine energy. And one of the reasons that is because when we go through a spiritual awakening, we flip our natural pole. Now, poles of polarity. And one of the reasons we're doing this is so that we can go through a process of healing that other side. So this is why sometimes you might have women that are in the empowerment age. They've gone through their spiritual awakening, they feel empowered, but maybe they feel like they're activating too much masculine energy, and then they end up attracting feminine men, because also the feminine men are gone through their animus, and they're feeling, and they're going into their maybe their mother wound. I went through this like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was going through it to heal my mother wound, that energy. And this is a common thread people go down, but their polarity gets flipped for a period of time. When your polarity gets flipped, you're going into it, heal it, but then you end up attracting sometimes kind of the opposite of what you want. You may be like, well, I want a masculine man. But what ends up happening is you end up attracting someone that's feminine, but it's because there's that masculine energy activated to go through and heal. Now, also, just a general basis for this, when it comes to saying male and female, understand that polarity and energy is not gender specific. So you might have a different sexual orientation and this will still apply. Like whatever one your natural is, there's feminine and masculine energy in everybody, but whatever one it is, when you go through an awakening, you may flip to the other side. And it can still work where maybe then you're attracting more feminine or masculine females or guys, you know what I mean? So just being more inclusive there. So realize that this is maybe this is a natural part of the process, but you're going into that energy to heal it, to ground it within yourself. So just trust the timing as well and know that it's just a part of the process. There's nothing wrong. It's just something that you're going through to really heal. I had to go through and in a way heal the mother wound stuff so that I could then actually come even more powerfully into my masculine. And if you've seen my videos over the last 2 or 3 years, you've probably seen big shifts in my energy. If you have, let me know. Comment below if you've noticed that. There's a big shift in energy, and that was one of them, the anima, the animus, and the polarity. And your polarity is healed, or in a way more so balanced the more you heal and accept different aspects of yourself, and you really settle into that energy. So that's the second thing. Now, the third thing with this is many times we have a belief that attracting love is hard. So it's similar to the first one where it's like we just believe there's not that many high vibrational people out there. But realize that synchronicity is a natural reflection of the way reality works. And one thing that I would highly recommend you do to attract love, to attract soul family, is to really be in alignment with your passion and your purpose. Because in my own life, I've noticed that I always have gotten a reflection of my own energy. And if your energy is of such where you're not doing what you love, but your spirit, you have these spiritual ideas and you're like doing your best to elevate yourself, what ends up happening is you end up attracting people that are equal reflections of that energy. When I worked a 9-to-5 job, I always attracted girlfriends that also worked 9-to-5 jobs that they didn't like because I didn't like mine. And once I started doing the inner work and started following my passion, I then would only attract women into my life that were passionate about what they do. And now my girlfriend loves what she does, super passionate about music and like making videos, actually does something very similar to what I do. And it's a natural reflection. It happens very easily when you're in alignment. So one thing I would highly recommend is to, instead of focusing on attracting the love, put the awareness on the inside and begin making this more about you being in your own frame and you also following your passion, knowing that as a natural reflection, you are then going to vibrationally resonate with people that can actually resonate with you at that deeper level. Now, the fourth one that I want to share actually has to do with a very common thing that I noticed in the spiritual community, and that is of someone that is an empath. An empath is somebody that is able to feel other people's energies, is very sensitive, and picks up on things in their environment very easily. And empaths will sometimes find it hard to be in their own energy field, and they will tune themselves to others. And my theory about this, or what I've noticed, is that a lot of times this is a coping mechanism that was birthed out of a need in childhood to glue the family together, to get the tension to go away. And the challenge with this then is that going into adulthood, what happens is tuning to the environment becomes a key factor in survival, and even survival in being accepted. And one of the things I notice with a lot of spiritual people is they may have this empath ability, this empath-like characteristic, but then what happens is they end up attracting people into their life that has a strong frame. Maybe even the extreme side of this of being like, sometimes empaths will attract narcissists. People that have a very perceived strong sense of frame, that are very controlling and emotionally manipulative. So one of the reasons it might be hard for some spiritual people to attract love is if you identify as an empath, is that you're tuning to other people's energy in a way that puts you as the cameo in your own movie. Now, for this, and this also leaks into purpose, to become the hero of your own movie, the key is taking that lead role, not in a narcissistic way, but more so realize the word hero comes from the suffix or the meaning to serve, servant. And what happens is when you're a part of your purpose and you're doing what you love, you are a servant to a greater ideal than yourself, a greater degree of energy. But in order to do that, you have to be able to serve your own purpose. And then realize that the more value you add into the world, the more that like you're growing this mission or whatever it is. You're living up to the basis of your purpose. However, what happens for a lot of empaths is they are the cameo in other people's movie. And they are tuning to other people, which isn't normally attractive. And normally people as empaths are normally looking for the validation, the love, or the support from the outside. And when you're looking for the love, the validation, and the support from the outside, you end up needing someone else's energy in order to feel whole and complete. That depolarizes your own energy and has you searching for something outside of yourself that isn't outside of yourself. The key to this is healing that love, healing that energy, feeling the self-love. Let go of needing it from the outside by knowing that it isn't even outside. It's only within you. And if you haven't checked it out yet, there's something called the 21-Day Magnetic Love Challenge, 21 days of transformation of healing the codependent wounds, healing attachment styles of anxious or avoidant attachment to become more secure, helping to really feel worthy and self-love within so that you can actually attract that love into your life. If you haven't checked it out yet, go to aarondaddy.com/love or click the link below. But this is one of the most important things that I've noticed is getting inside your own frame. That completely changes the attraction field and the level of self-confidence too. You start to literally feel more self-confident about yourself. Now, the fifth thing that will block you from attracting love as a high vibrational person is one that many people fall in the trap under in the spiritual community. I see it happen all the time. That is the whole idea of labels, of twin flame, different types of soulmates, and people get so heady over these labels that then they end up trying to force things to work, force people into, it becomes this very like thing that you're trying to control that ends up doing more harm than good. Like on Instagram and stuff, you'll see like there's so many people doing twin flame readings and all this stuff. Not dogging on it or saying there's anything wrong with it, but a lot of times the people that are searching for their twin flame, it's like a codependent relationship. It's looking for a codependency. It's almost like normally there's some type of attachment pattern that is normally anxious or avoidant, and they're looking for something and waiting for this big old thing of the twin flame, and it ends up blocking them from just being in the moment. They become so they become so focused on the outside that they stop being in the moment. Imagine you're going on a date. And the whole time you're on the date, you're like, I hope they like me. I hope everything turns out well. I mean, this person is my twin flame. It is this forever meant to be. I mean, it's literally half of my soul has been cut in half, and now I'm an incomplete soul, and like this person's going to completely complete me. But think about that. Think about how disempowering that is. Think about how much you're also putting someone on a pedestal. You don't know this yet, but you are the other half to my soul, okay? And if you would just act correctly and you would just act in accordance to how I want you to act, everything's gonna be okay. But then that makes them run away because it's a heavy-ass energy. So one thing I'd highly recommend you do is to let go of the labels and start treating everyone in your life in a way as a twin flame, as a soulmate, or whatever. Something when Bashar, who's like an Abraham Hicks channeler, people ask him all the time about twin flames. He always says the same thing. Everyone in the moment who's in your life, friends, family, they are your soulmate in that moment. And if you treat them as your soulmate in that moment, you'll start to create a deeper degree of trust and love. And what will end up happening is, from that, you'll feel more connected. And you'll then attract more and more of that synchronicity. Remember, synchronicity is always around you. It's just, are you allowing yourself the ability to perceive of it? By noticing and being aware of the different patterns that are in your life. So these are all things that will help you to attract that love. And if you haven't yet listened to my most powerful meditation for attracting love, it is right here. It has over 4 million views, and hundreds of people, thousands of people, if you read the comments, have attracted love from it because it activates the energy within. So if you haven't checked that video out yet, it is right here. Listen to it for 21 days and watch what happens. Make yourself comfortable. We are about to go deep into your subconscious mind. Set the intention that this